Today, we're going to be talking about arthritis. Let's start with a definition. Arthritis is inflammation of the joints. Arthritis is an ailment of the body that is an old chronic condition. There are many forms such as gout or rheumatoid arthritis, which are different from the common varieties of arthritis. The joints become enlarged and painful, being very tender to any movement or pressure. The pain may be constant or intermittent. Often the hands draw back or to one side, and in chronic conditions, the muscles shrink and will eventually wither away. This affliction may have a decided effect on childbirth, both to the mother and the newborn child. Rheumatism is best described as afflictions of muscle, tendon, joint, bone, or nerve, resulting in discomfort and disability from stiffness of joints or muscles. Arthritis is caused by acids and waste matter in the body, which eventually become solidified and lock joints. This condition is caused and aggravated by improper diet. Some of the worst intakes are eggs, bread, milk, meat, salt, sugar, because they cause arthritic calcification. The use of extremely hard water, generally of 12 or more grains in hardness, will often exacerbate, thank you, an arthritic condition where softer water will help relieve it. The first thing that you need to do when you're seeing arthritis or an arthritic condition in the body is, one, you've got to just take your food program and get rid of all the processed stuff. You really need to clean up your food program to start with, and then to start reversing it. One of the best things that you can do is just get on distilled water, cut all the mineral water. You need empty water. Distilled water is empty water. All right, of course, it's very important that the bowels are open and moving well. I have to name the foundational stuff. If your bowels are not open and moving well, you are cycling all that toxicity back into your body and nothing is getting out. You may be using really good herbs, really good properties to get the joints cleared, and it's dissolving the inorganic mineral deposits, but you are not going to clear it out of your system if your bowels are not open. The waste is just going to cycle and reabsorb. So the bowel cleansing, making sure your bowels are moving, is very important. Hydrotherapy. All right, let's talk for a few minutes about hydrotherapy. This is something a lot of people do not do because it is a bit of a hassle, and it just doesn't sound like something that has to be done. If you will do the hydrotherapy, you are going to find huge results and benefits, and almost immediately. Just one example, and I will share this from my own story. In 1985, I was in a car accident. My head went into the windshield, and I had a compression break in my lower back, in my spine. That was in 85. I did not discover BF&C and the natural healing regimens until 96. So I had 12 or 13 years or whatever that was in there, dealing with spasms in my back, with horrible, I mean, a lot of pain, a lot of, I was living on muscle relaxants basically. And when I first came into natural healing, my kidneys were a mess, and I had this back that liked to spasm on me all the time. I could get into the shower when I was not even able to stand up straight. I mean, I would be holding the shower wall just to stay upright, and do that hot and cold on my back. And when I would get out of the shower, I would be bouncing out and standing up straight, and I was fine. It was just like somebody took an oil can back, and all the spasm went away. And this was just hot and cold hydrotherapy. That's all it was. And I could count on it doing that every time. My back would just work itself into a spasm. I could get in the shower, do the hot and cold, and get out feeling much relieved. I mean, it did not take it away, and of course, it took a while for the issues to clear and for my back to become strong again using the bone, flesh, and cartilage and the other formulas that actually work and heal those areas. But it was amazing to me, the relief that I could get in 10, 15 minutes just doing the hot and cold. All right, this is what you do. When it's your back, you're going to get in the shower. You're going to turn your back to the shower, make it as hot as you can stand it, and just let everything heat up. And when I was dealing with my back issues, I would let the heat hit me until I would actually start getting a little nauseated from all the blood, just congregating in this part of your body. And so I would just stay in the shower until I was really, really hot. And then I would step out of the flow of the water, turn it completely cold, move myself back into it, and just stand there gripping the wall. And there were times that I actually cried. It was breaking down emotional calcification as well as the physical issues. And it can make you cry. It's just breaking everything up in you. And but it's a good thing. So you just cry. I mean, I would pound the wall. I would scream. Sometimes I would sing, whatever came to mind, but I was usually pretty vocal when it was going on because it was dramatic. And then you just turn it back hot again, and you just let it heat back up, and then you do it again. After the second or third change to cold, you're kind of numbed out and you don't feel it so much anymore. You've got yourself so numbed out that you're just not feeling the heat or the changes anymore. So it needs to be done at least 7 hots and 7 colds. I've stayed in it until I ran out of hot water in the past, and it was amazing the benefits I would get. Now, when you're working on your knees or your ankles or arms or some other part of your body, get yourself a little shower chair and sit down in it and just take your shower wand. And if you don't have a shower wand, I have seen the ones that you can get at Lowe's or at some home improvement store where you just take the head of the shower off, you unscrew that, and you put the wand on and then screw this back on. And there's a little switch that will switch then between the hand wand and the shower head. And it was like $35. And so if you don't have a handheld in your shower, it's $35 to go pick this one up, and it just screws on right behind your shower head. And the only thing I would suggest is that you get some plumber's tape and just wrap that around so that you get a real tight screw back on when you install that for yourself. I've got a husband that does all that kind of stuff, so I'm very lucky. But he told me that I have to tell you guys that you need plumber's tape when you install that, or you will have leaking coming out. It's the one he got, it was like a little cheap plasticky thing on the screw part. It wasn't metal, but with the plumber's tape, it's held up really well until he remodeled the bathroom, and now I have a good one. But it worked really well for a long time. So get yourself a handheld wand, and then get your stool, sit down, and just work on, you turn it all the way up to as hot as you can tolerate it, and just work from your knee down. And you want to just, when you're working on even your feet or something, you come all the way up to the hip. Don't just concentrate on the affected joint. Go all the way around it so the lymphatic will really get the benefit of the hydrotherapy. So cover the whole up to your hip and then down to your feet, and get it all heated up, all nice and pink. And then you take the shower wand, you move it away, you turn it completely cold, bring it back, and just blast yourself with the cold. And believe it or not, when you do your legs and that, you usually don't cry. That one's much easier to tolerate. It's the back that would always get me, and my head. It actually works really good on vertigo issues. I had some really bad cases of vertigo for a while, and it was probably inner ear disturbance that was causing it. And I did the hydrotherapy on my head, and my head would get itching so bad. The circulation being restored to my scalp and all that from doing the hot and cold, it was just incredible how bad the itch would get in my scalp from doing hot and cold, which told me that I did not have good circulation, up through this part of my scalp and all that. And it really helped with the vertigo issue. So don't discount hydrotherapy for anything that's going on. If it's something to do with circulation, and anytime you have disease or injury, you have blockage. And the hydrotherapy is going to help with the blockage. It's going to blast through. So dealing with the arthritic issues, you want to bring the blood in, and anytime there's an arthritic joint, you're going to have blockage. So you want to bring the fresh blood into the area, and then the cold water is going to slam it through and just force it through. The more drama that you have between the hot and the cold, the deeper it's going to go. So if you're just doing mild little changes, I mean, if you kind of get it hot and then you just turn it back to cold a little bit, but not completely cold, it's not going to do a whole lot of good. What you're doing with the hot is you're bringing all the fresh blood to the surface, and then the cold, when you change it to cold and the cold hits that, it's just going to drive it deep. Think of it as firing a blood bullet into the affected area or through the affected area. The hot water loads the bullet and the cold fires it. So the more drama you have between the hot and the cold, the more benefit you're going to get from the circulation going through it. Every time you're just doing a forced circulation into that affected area, and it's going to be breaking up the blockage and clearing waste out, bringing in the good and taking out the garbage. So that is the value of hydrotherapy. Do not discount it. Do it. It's going to make a huge difference on any arthritic joint, anything that is going on with that. Okay. One of the things I want to talk about a little bit early on here, and just get these two out of the way right away, because they kind of are standalone, is gout. And I've got the info sheet here on gout that you could download from the my blog. And then sciatica. Both of these are come in under the heading of arthritis, but they're kind of a standalone issue. Gout, of course, is basically what you have when you've got a gout issue is you have urea crystals that have not been, the kidney has not properly processed. It has stopped in the middle of processing the urea out of the blood to be eliminated. And when the process is interrupted, it will cause the crystals to form, and then the crystals will go and lodge in joints, and that's why the joints get hot and inflamed. It's from urea crystals. So anytime that you have a hot inflamed joint, you have urea crystals in that joint, and they need to be dissolved and taken care of. One of the most painful ones is gout. And there is a very quick fix for gout. What can be done for this, and normally overnight you can get relief. By the next morning, sometime in 45 minutes to an hour, but most of the time you find the total relief coming overnight, as it has a chance to process the crystals out now that they've been dissolved and all that. What you do when you have an inflamed gout condition is you are going to you're going to make yourself a hot foot soak with apple cider vinegar. And believe it or not, it's that simple. the apple cider vinegar is going to dissolve the urea crystals in that gouty foot. And by the next morning, it is going to feel hugely better. And anywhere that you have gout, gout isn't just necessarily in the foot, but any place that you have it, you make it as hot as you can stand it, and you want at least a 50-50 mix of the apple cider vinegar. You do not boil the apple cider vinegar. You put that in and you pour the boiling water over it to heat it up. Do not cook the apple cider vinegar. You add the hot water to it to heat the apple cider vinegar, and try to keep a 50-50 mix. And then just put your little gouty toe or whatever is in pain in there, and just let it soak for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And you will find that by the next morning, you will have huge amounts of relief. The other thing that will work very well, but usually you cannot touch it well enough to apply it, is using the A&R salve, the arthritis and rheumatism salve. This is a mix that we make here. And this mix of herbs is all about dissolving the urea crystals and getting and clearing the heat from the joint. Let me see if I can read this. This is a mix of yucca, hydrangea root, Mormon tea, chaparral, lobelia, burdock root, sarsaparilla, wild lettuce, valerian, wormwood, cayenne, black cohosh, black walnut, and then it's in olive oil with beeswax. And this mix of herbs is all about clearing out the heat and the inflammation from the joint. This is not going to rebuild the joint. This is going to clear out the heat, and this mix of herbs is capable. It has the ability to, when you pack it on there, and I'm going to demonstrate a pack in a little bit, and you apply this over, pack it on the hot afflicted joint. By the next morning or 4 to 6 hours, I actually had my finger, I like to embroidery, and a few weeks ago, my finger just became really inflamed. I had really been overusing it and working with a really tough project, and it hurt so bad. I did not know that a joint could be that painful. I really sympathize now with somebody who has more than one finger that hurts that bad. I mean, it was shooting pain up in my finger, and I could not bend it. I couldn't type with it. It just hurt so bad. And I just wrapped it with the A&R salve, and it was like 4 hours later, it was fine. And I only had to do it once. And of course, I did an ELF shortly after that, an emergency liver flush. I figured I probably needed to do that. But I had been overusing my hands, and I knew it. And I paid for it. But this is all about getting the inflammation down, and it worked really well and really fast. The problem with applying it to a gout issue is it's so painful and so hot that applying the salve to the gouted toe or wherever it is, you can't tolerate putting the salve on there. If you can, it will work really well. But what mostly can be tolerated is soaking it in apple cider vinegar. So once you've got it knocked down with that, then you can go ahead and apply the A&R salve and really clean up the rest of that mess and get that toe uninflamed and feeling much better. But I would start with the apple cider vinegar soak with a gout, because it's really too painful to put a salve pack on right off the bat. All right. The other one that's a kind of a standalone issue is sciatica. And I never would have put this in with arthritic issues, except it comes from the same issue. I mean, you have inflamed your system, and it's usually from bad food program, eating junk food, and constipation. Sciatica is usually a good result of being constipated. The sciatic nerve runs right through the middle of each side of your bottom, the cheeks as they go down. That sciatic nerve runs right down the middle of the cheeks. So you've got two of them. And it just happens that the nerve goes right through the middle of the descending colon. So if you are constipated, if you're holding waste in there, that constipation, that toxicity is going to seep through and go in and inflame the nerve, the sciatic nerve. So if you have sciatica, you need to make sure, if you have issues with that you keep your bowels open and moving well, and you do not let yourself get constipated. It can be very, very painful. There are several things that work really well, and one of them sounds a little bit strange, but I had sciatica, and I just praise the Lord. I've had so many of these things happen to me that I got a chance to see what works and what doesn't. It was while I was doing some detoxing or whatever, and I got a little constipated and things just weren't moving well, and it felt like my leg was trying to turn inside out. When that nerve became inflamed, I could not even sit up straight. I was holding the back of my chair just to sit in the chair so that I could soak my foot and do what needed to be done. When I read Dr. Christopher's suggestions for clearing sciatica, it sounded a little witchy, but it actually works really well. In 45 minutes, I was sitting comfortably. What you do is I'm just going to read it right off here. Bathing the feet in hot apple cider vinegar will help. And if you wish faster action, which of course you do, place the right foot into a pan of chopped garlic with the bare foot on the garlic and the left foot in the hot apple cider vinegar. This will start a circulatory movement which will give quick relief. The internal use of apple cider vinegar and honey, a tablespoon of each 3 times a day, or MCT pectin, a teaspoon 3 times a day, will speed the cleansing. Believe it or not, you are going to just rest your foot. You just chop the garlic up and you just rest your foot on top of it. And you're going to do this for between a half hour to 45 minutes. And you keep the other foot in, keep it hot and keep about a 50-50, or I like to do about a 75-25 mix with the water. I was in so much pain, I figured much apple cider vinegar as I could do. I just took a gallon jug and really put it in there. But you only need just to get the foot covered. You're not running up the leg or anything. This is just a foot soak that you're doing with the apple cider vinegar, and then rest your foot on the garlic, and it really does work. I've suggested this to people on several occasions, and the feedback I've gotten, it wasn't just me it worked on, it works, and the garlic does do something. So when you're dealing with sciatica, consider trying that. It's excellent. And then there are also pain salves that you can smear right down on the nerves. Just rub them into the nerve, and it will calm the nerve down. The pain salve that I've used for years, the nervine herbs in it calm the nerve down right in the nerve sheath. So that's, it doesn't numb it. You're not being numbed out or anything. The nervine herbs actually go into the nerve sheath and calm the nerve right down, right in the nerve sheath, so that it just quits sending out pain signals. And it actually works pretty good. It's not going to be a complete fix, but it brings quite a bit of relief. I mean, where you can't even stand up or sit or do much of anything, it does provide some good relief. All right. Let's look at what we're going to actually do to clear the inorganic mineral deposits from the joints and heal these joints. The first thing that of course you got the food program in, you've got your bowels moving, everything is going, you're getting that changed around. So what are we going to do to actually target the affected area? You put your hydrotherapy in place. So you're doing your hot and cold on it, and you're doing that at least twice a day. If you can do it 3 times a day in serious conditions, that's wonderful. But at least twice a day, you are doing your hydrotherapy on your the hot and the cold over the affected joint. Then what we want to do is, if the joints are hot and inflamed, you need to use an herbal mix, something like the arthritis and rheumatism salve, that is going to take and dissolve the crystals, the urea crystals in there, and get those out and get the heat down and get the inflammation out, and that takes the pain away. That's going to cool everything off and get the pain level way down. And then once you've got that under control, and you may need to go back and forth between the salves, and when you're doing it, because of course you can only pack it with 1 salve at a time. So if it's inflamed, if it's hot and painful, use the arthritis and rheumatism salve. If the joint is cool and you're just working then on rebuilding it and strengthening it, then you would go ahead and use a mix that we call the bone, flesh, and cartilage. And this is a mix of white oak bark, mullein, oat seed, mullein, marshmallow root, black walnut, gravel root, wormwood, skullcap, comfrey, and with olive oil and beeswax. This is an excellent herbal aid to rebuild, strengthen anything with the bone, flesh, and cartilage. The way that you want to saturate those joints with the healing nutrients that are in these herbs. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a salve pack and apply them over the affected area, wherever that area is. Wherever it's degraded, you're going to pack it, and usually you leave the packs on all night. And you can apply it, you can rub it in during the day, and you can reapply the pack during the day. In serious cases, we're talking about degraded spines and an arthritic spinal condition, knees that have are bone on bone, different things like this. You want to make sure that you give the body at least 4 to 6 hours a day without any salves on it, so that you do not become oversaturated with oil on that in that area. I've worked with members who have had really bad issues with their back, and they were putting the packs on and leaving them on at night. And in about 3 or 4 weeks, the skin became saturated with oil and started breaking out little oil bumps. And then they had to leave the packs off for several weeks while everything cleared up. So their healing time was really slowed down because they could not continue to use the packs. So give the body time to get the oils absorbed, and so that you don't end up with little pockets of oil in the skin from overusing the packs. You need at least 4 to 6 hours a day when there's no packs on and the skin is just relieved of that. And that's in real serious conditions. In more minor conditions, you can just use it at night. You put the packs on at night and use them. Okay, the arthritis and rheumatism extracts, the oral use of them, you put them a teaspoon a dose, and you would make a hot cup of tea with that. You just add it to hot water, and you can use the arthritis and the BF and C at the same time, not in the same cup, but in the same day, you can be using both of those. So internally, you're dealing with the inflammation as well as providing the rebuilding herbs to rebuild the joints. That you can do at the same time, orally, but you can only apply one pack over the area at a time. So let's go ahead and look at what making a pack is all about. This is where a lot of people get confused, and they think they're doing good packs, and they're really not putting enough. They're not using enough salve. Okay, I like to use press and seal wrap. It's sticky on one side, so I'm going to just make a small pack here and demonstrate how we make them. If I can get this to agree with me. There we go. Okay, what I like to do is just put the sticky side up, and I just lay the wrap out, and we make, I believe these are half-yard pieces of flannel, and I get like 50 yards of flannel at a time, and we just cut it down to size. And then when you get it, you're going to just cut the piece to fit what you want. And so I'm just going to make a small one here, and I'm just cutting a piece of the flannel. And you want to make it where you fold it in half, so you've got 2 layers. It's really important. The nice thing about flannel is it's very spongy. It's a thick, spongy material, so it's going to hold the salve in abeyance until the body is ready to soak it in. So just lay this material in the middle of your wrap, and the sticky side is up, so it's being put in there nice and sticky. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use the BF&C to make this with. And you see the salve, it's a nice green color. It's really rich, and it's got a little bit of a stiffness to it, which is what you want to see.
Wow.
Okay, you can see how much, yes.
That's a lot.
This is where a lot of people don't use enough. And the truth is, you reuse the packs. You're making a pack, and you're going to really saturate it well with your salve. And I'm going to apply this to my ankle tonight, so I'm just going to take and set this aside. Okay, and so you want to put the area on so that you're completely covering the area that you are wanting to saturate. Now, if this was to go down the spine, we would be applying it over the back like this, and you can see how much I put on here. It's a good amount. People do not tend to use enough. You want to saturate the tissue that is affected with the nutrients. All right, in the morning when you take the pack off, it's going to peel off in the morning. And when you take the pack off, you can just then fold it, and I'm just going to fold this up because I'm going to use it later. This would just be wrapped over whatever joint you wanted to put it on. In the morning when you take it off, you just peel it off, and this will be used up pretty good. But you just fold the whole thing over and stick it in a Ziploc bag or something, and keep the pack fresh. And then what I'll be doing when I go to use this tonight is I'll just peel it off this and put it on a fresh piece of press and seal wrap to reapply to me. And then just take it like this in the morning when you take it off. You can reuse the pack for 5 to 7 days, as long as it doesn't develop any odor or stain. And so here it is. It's on your bedside table waiting for you to need it the next night. So the next night you pull it out, You open it back up, you pull it off this piece of press and seal wrap. Believe it or not, this is not hard to do. There we go. And this wasn't attached to me or anything, so it's stickier than what you would expect it to be in the morning. So you're getting this ready then the next night to use it again. So you just open it back up, you take and remove this from the backing that it's on. You get a fresh piece of press and seal out, you lay it down on the fresh piece. You refresh the salve on it, you put a little more salve back on it because it will be soaked into the material, and you're just going to add a little more. You don't have to add as much as you did the first time, but you just refresh it a little bit, and then you reapply it over the affected area. So you're just refreshing with a little bit more salve, and there's still salve in pack. So the first time you're going to put quite a bit on, and then when you refresh it each time, it's not going to take so much. So any questions on making salve packs? Okay.
If you can
These
use it,
packs,
how
yes.
about if you use it during the day, and because at night you have stuff and you can sleep all night with all that? How about if you use it during the day, especially
That
on
works
your
perfect.
knees? Okay.
There's absolutely no problem with that. The reason that I tend to point to the nighttime is because it's convenient. You know, you're not walking around with these things all over you trying to do stuff all night.
Right, especially for the knees.
And
during the day,
yeah.
it's easier than at night because you have all that, you cannot turn and can sleep all night. My mom
Yeah.
did all that, so we did it during the day because she couldn't sleep at night with all that.
That works just
Okay.
fine. You just want to spend the time each day with each 24 hours. You want to have it on there for 9 hours, whatever, you know, that you have the packs on.
Yeah, we kept
And
it
then-
like from 8 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock till she went to bed around 10 o'clock at night. And then was
That's
all
perfect.
night. Okay.
Yeah, and when you take it off of her, take and wash the area with soap and water.
Okay.
And you might even want to apply a little bit of apple cider vinegar mixed in water just to flush the skin
Okay.
and really get it nice and clean. You know, make sure you've got all the oil out. And then that will just refresh everything so that she doesn't end up with the oil pockets.
Okay.
Yes, Catherine, you had a question.
Well, the instructions that I remember that were offered was to use a heating pad to warm the pack before going to bed.
Yes.
Is that
That is an excellent idea. It being summertime, that just slipped my brain. Thank you for bringing it up. It is very important point that I just missed on that. When you apply the, in the summertime, you may not need to so much because it's so warm already, but it would still be helpful just to really get it started. Put a towel over the pack and then apply a heating pad or a hot water bottle over the affected area on top of the towel. So you've got the pack, a towel, and then a heating source. And that is going to drive the nutrients in more effectively and get them to really saturate the area. The only time that I don't suggest doing that is if you're dealing with under the arm, between the legs, somewhere where it's already really warm. A heating pad in most places, especially if you're dealing with the back, the knees, the ankles, anything like that, you want to use the heating pad so that you saturate the area. Yeah, and your hands, you can slip your hands. This is something that needs to be understood about the urea crystals and where they come from. Now, if the process of turning the dead tissue into urea is incomplete, it forms uric acid. Certain foods and drinks cause the urea to be left unfinished. Or if the urea is hindered or stopped from being expelled, it returns into the system and forms uric acid. This can be done by stopping perspiration, cooling off quickly, neglect of proper bathing, neglect to change the underclothing, inhaling urea at night while sleeping in ill-ventilated rooms. that was one I hadn't really thought much about, but you really need to have fresh air coming into your room at night when you're sleeping. General aids for this: drink burdock tea and apply the B&L salve, which is the burdock and lobelia salve, as a fomentation on the painful areas. Use apple cider vinegar and honey to cut toxic waste loose and expel them from the body. And of course, you got to keep the bowels open. I want to go back and address the burdock here. I was really surprised by it several years ago when I had a really bad outbreak of boils. They were just so painful I could hardly sit. And I had done elfing, I had liver flushed, I had done pretty much everything I could get them to go away. I used the black charcoal flaxseed poultice and pulled them out. I would get them empty, but they would just refill. And after like a month and a half, whatever, of fighting this mess, I started looking for something else I could do. And I came across a reference that Christopher had said that burdock root would quickly clear boils and carbuncles. It was Tuesday when I started it. I did 1 rounded teaspoon of burdock root, cut and sifted burdock root, in about 16 ounces, a mug that holds about 16 ounces of water, and I poured boiling water over those roots. I put a saucer on top. I just let it sit there and steep for 10, 15 minutes until it was drinkable. And then I drank that. And I did it only 1 time a day. You just do that once a day. Do not do it twice. You don't want to. 1 time a day. What happened? By Friday, the boils were completely gone and they never came back. And that was all I did. I did no more drawing poultices. I wasn't doing any liver flushing, nothing. I just used the burdock root. And I started on Tuesday, and by Friday, I had no boils anywhere on my body, period. They were gone. The other thing that happened immediately that day was my urine output shot through the roof. I mean, I am dumping so much water out of me. That's why I say you only do this 1 time a day. You do not take this twice a day. It's 1 time a day that you use that. And it just really increased the urine output in me. But it wasn't just clear water coming out. It was dark and heavy. It was full of sediment. And it was really dark and heavy. I mean, this was pulling the urea, and it was supporting the kidneys in filtering the blood and really pulling the waste out. Not to be too graphic, but when I stood up from voiding and turned around and looked, there was a yellow on the bottom of the thing and clear liquid sitting on top of this yellow that had sunk down. That was how heavy the urine was and how dark it was. And there was so much of it, I could not understand how it could be so dark and still have that much coming out of me. And it was amazing the way it pulled. And the effects were a real lightening of my mind. And I wasn't feeling depressed or anything, but I realized I wasn't as happy as I could have been, because when all that started clearing, it was like everything in me just kind of lightened up and lifted up a bit. And I stayed on that protocol for 9 months. It was just something I figured was not a bad idea to keep on doing. And so I continued for about 9 months, taking 1 teaspoon of burdock root in a cup of hot tea every day. And my kidneys really responded well to that. They really liked it. There was no, I had to support the liquid. You know, you have to drink enough because you're putting out so much fluid that you need to make sure that you're intaking enough fluid in the day to support that kind of output. But once you get that, it was just all good. And it really cleaned up. I did not have any blood work done or anything like that. So, but I have had members who have had high urea in their blood, tested for that, and doing this has brought those levels down, where the kidneys were filtering much better again. So I would strongly suggest for any toxic issues that using the burdock by itself, if you've got the inflamed condition going on, the kidneys are very responsible for what is going on in your joint. Them not doing their job well enough is creating the uric acid, which is the urea crystals, which are then being deposited in the joints and inflaming them. So supporting the kidneys is very important, and doing regular kidney flushing would also be a really good idea. In addition to using the burdock root, I would also strongly suggest that you do your hot lemonade once a day. And the hot lemonade is a 16 to 32 ounce glass of water with a teaspoon of cayenne, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, lemon juice taste, and then you can sweeten it with maple syrup or honey. And honey doesn't stir in as well. It tends to sink to the bottom. I like the maple syrup for the hot lemonade. And this is, it really is stimulating. It's going to clean those filters, which are your kidneys. Your kidneys are filters that filter your blood, and there's no bypass around them. So the apple cider vinegar, the lemon juice, all that, the cayenne is going to help clean those filters and stimulate the kidneys to do a better job.
How much lemonade?
To taste. I like mine pretty tart. I tend to use almost an ounce. And honestly, I do not squeeze the lemons. If you are one that will sit there and squeeze your lemons for this, more power to you. I get the green bottle and I pour it in. There's not much value on the lemon in that. The value is really the apple cider vinegar. The lemon is to taste, and there is a little bit in it that does help the kidneys. But if you'll squeeze the lemon juice out of the lemon, that's better. But I know I won't, so I don't even try to kid myself on that one.
Okay,
And
so
I use about an ounce.
an ounce of lemon juice,
And if that's not tart enough, use more.
okay, one teaspoon of cayenne and 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, and my tablespoon is a glug.
Can you put 2 tablespoons?
Yeah, I probably do.
Okay.
I always say 1 tablespoon, especially for those that are weak at heart and that don't like apple cider vinegar. But when I do it, I just take and pour a glug in.
And you said 16 ounces of water?
16 to 32. I have a big 32 ounce glass upstairs, and I tend to fill that up and use that when I rehydrate in the morning. So I actually do a 32 ounce myself.
You do a 32 ounce of water, and you only add 1 teaspoon of cayenne and 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar?
I glug it. I'm probably getting an ounce of apple cider vinegar in there.
Okay, because I do this every morning, but I think I have like a 12 ounce cup.
Yeah. Now you can do it. I use it to rehydrate, because I don't drink, I don't tend to drink at night. So by morning, I'm a bit dehydrated, and I just use this big old drink every morning just to get myself rehydrated in the morning.
Okay.
So, but a lot of people can't drink 32 ounces at one shot. I mean, you have to get used to drinking that much at one time. And,
so the benefit of doing this every morning is what?
Pardon?
Rehydration? The benefit of doing this hot lemonade is rehydration?
I use it to rehydrate. It's also stimulating. It just gets my brain going, gets my body going. My kidneys tend to appreciate it. It helps clean the filters on the kidneys. And on days when my bowels are being a little bit obstinate, it will actually be stimulating enough to get my bowels to dump when maybe they were holding on and not moving as well as they ought to.
Okay.
I don't use it for the bowel cleanse, and I don't, but I will drink it, and I'll drink a little bit extra. I'll put more cayenne in there when my bowels are getting a little tight and they could stand to move a little better. And
Does the
the
cayenne like help
stimulation.
it?
Pardon?
The cayenne is helping the bowels move better?
It stimulates everything. They're already wanting to go. I use my lower bowel number 1, you know, that formula, but sometimes it's just, if you don't stay hydrated enough, your bowels will tighten up on you.
Okay.
So staying hydrated is really important to keeping the bowels moving. And I will find that sometimes the cayenne, right after my be open and working, my bowels will be one. You want to be liver flushing every once in a while. When you are doing any active program, you need to be clearing out the liver on a regular basis. So doing an ELF, a liver flush once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever it takes so that the waste can keep moving out of you. Because when you're using these herbal supports, they are breaking waste loose. They are dissolving inorganic mineral deposits that then has to be vacuumed up by the liver and removed. And so keeping that liver open and moving well is very important when you're clearing an issue from the body. So yes, Catherine.
I recently heard through another source that the gallbladder needs regular attention as well, and so that the liver and the gallbladder work together. But when the gallbladder is out of balance with the liver, then it can create issues as well, and that's come to my awareness recently.
Yes.
So,
and when you do an ELF, when you do the emergency liver flush, you are flushing the liver through and you're flushing the gallbladder through. It all flushes through. It's all getting cleared out. When you have an arthritic condition, white flour, sugar are poison. They are absolute poison. If you want a setback, you can be moving forward and then go to a birthday party and get yourself back in a world of pain. Keep that in mind. The sugar is and the cheap foods will just exacerbate everything. All right. Well, I think we've covered this pretty good. If there's no more questions, next week I think we're going to deal with blood sugar issues.